Hello, boys and girls. This is the Loner Spoiler Cast for Spider-Man 3. We're stopping with the MCU and moving on to Spider-Mans. All the Spider-Mans in anticipation for Spider-Man No Way Home. So we are giving our thoughts on each one and then ranking them at the end of the show.
Including the Ultimate Spider-Man starring Drake Bell.
That is false. That is false.
Okay, never
We're
mind.
not doing that. We're just doing the movies. Just the movies. So, Sam Raimi Spider-Man.
Including the
Amazing
60s
Spider-Man.
Japanese Spider-Man film.
If you can find where to watch it, sure, we'll do it. If you can find out where to watch it, we'll do it. So yeah, this week we watched Spider-Man 3, which is a horrible movie.
It's bad.
It's a horrible movie, and I'm surprised that anybody who was a part of this movie decided, yeah, this is worth putting out. Oh boy.
Incredibly, Nick, this one of the three movies made the most money. Can you believe that?
I'm sure, dude. Yes, I can, because Spider-Man 1 was okay, right? It was okay for the time. Spider-Man 2, fantastic movie. It was awesome. Everything was awesome for this movie. Spider-Man 3, nobody knew what the fuck was going on, so everybody went, dude, if they do another Spider-Man 2, this movie's going to be great. You know? They didn't. They went something completely different. None of the story makes any sense.
You know what's really wild? So I've got the box offices here, Nick. And Spider-Man 1 made $821 million. Which is that's
okay.
pretty penny. That's pretty good.
That's not a lot. That's not a lot. I make that on a Tuesday.
That's true. Yeah, you're very rich though.
Yeah, I'm Jeff Bezos.
Spider-Man 2 made $789 million. Actually went down.
Wow.
Then Spider-Man 3 made $894 million.
So people just like shitty movies, is what that shows.
I guess. I mean, the
People
Suicide
like really shitty movies.
Yeah, Suicide Squad made a shit ton of money, so there you go. Yeah, but this movie starts with Spider-Man just being like so full. It starts with him. That weird fucking montage at the beginning, right?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, where it literally shows everything that happened in the last two movies.
Yeah,
in the first 5 minutes of this
felt
movie.
Like a TV show. Like they did the James Bond thing, but like they just inserted clips from the previous movies into the opening credits. It's crazy that they did that.
Which is cool.
Is it?
I guess. I don't know. I kind of like it.
Feels really lazy to me. I don't
know, man. Yeah, it's very lazy. But
you could have done like some cool animation or something to like retell the story, like something more. Yeah,
that's
creative.
True. That's true. Instead of just putting in bits and pieces
literal
of the older
clips,
movies. I agree.
Someone just went into Adobe Premiere and just like inserted them into After Effects or whatever.
Let's just put this in here. Then what happened? This happened. Then what happened? This happened. And they just fucking copy pasted. Yeah, oh man, it started off so bad. But how does? That's right. They're in the fucking park. It starts up with Mary Jane and Peter Parker sitting on a web in the park or like somewhere.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
And then we see they're like looking at shooting stars, and then a fucking meteor hits the ground, and it's the symbiote. And that's it. That's all we see.
Dude, the symbiote, it could have landed anywhere in the world. Yep. It could have landed in the middle of the ocean. Yep. It could have landed in, Switzerland. It could have landed in China. It could have landed anywhere. It landed right next to Spider-Man.
Yep. And then it attaches itself to his bike. And and then hitches a ride all the way home to his apartment, where it somehow climbed up into his apartment without anybody noticing.
And just sort of
hid out in his apartment for a while. Yeah.
Yeah, and also didn't his bike get destroyed?
Yeah, in the second movie, yeah,
Yeah.
it gets like run over by something
He must have got another one.
or fixed it.
Yeah. Let's say
But
insurance paid
he
for it.
can't really fix anything though. Like
It's true.
like in this movie,
He can't even fix
like
his relationship. Ha!
well, that's true. But in this movie, he's got like that door to his apartment that is like stuck closed.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's just bitching at the landlord to fix it. And it's like, you're fucking Spider-Man. Just fix it yourself.
Just push harder.
Like,
you got the strength.
Just like, well, but like, just fix it yourself. You're
Yeah.
you're fucking genius. Like, engineer something. So that it's not, I don't understand. I don't understand.
And then while this is happening, there is a bad man who has escaped named Flint, right? That's his name.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Flint Marco.
Yeah, Flint Marco. And he's running away. Well, like he goes and like visits his daughter. He just has escaped from prison for something.
For something. We don't even know what it's for.
They never really say why he's in jail, but we get to see him with his daughter to show that he is a good man deep down,
right?
Even though he's in prison for something.
Except he's in prison for something,
which we don't know why.
Right, but he's obviously he does sketchy shit because he's in prison.
Right. Yeah.
You know.
I mean, we can.
And it's not for the thing that he said that this movie sets up.
We could just assume that he's like a bank robber. He doesn't kill people, but he robs banks or whatever.
Okay.
So I guess we can make that assumption. And his wife, his ex-wife, comes out and is like, "Yo, what are you doing here? You need to leave." So he leaves, and then he gets chased down by these cops, and he gets like, I don't know. He goes into this like weird sand pit with like.
He jumps a fence that has like hardly any barbed wire on it. It's only like a 6-foot chain link fence. And then he falls into this fucking science experiment where they're atomizing sand, I guess. And nobody's paying attention, and he turns into Sandman.
Yeah, yeah. That at one point they're like, "Hey, there's something in there," and they're like, "It's probably a bird."
It'll get out once.
Bro, there
once
should
we
be
start the machine up.
With an experiment like this, there should be no fucking probably. Also, what are they trying to do? What is
That's
this
unexplained
machine?
As well.
What is going on? Also, if this turns this guy into Sandman, why can that not be replicated? And also, why has it never been replicated? Right. I am so confused by all of that.
And that's just like the first 3 scenes.
Yeah, yeah. And then we get one of the best scenes where it's Mary Jane at the play, right? She's like she's singing at the play.
And for way too long.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The scene goes on for way too long.
But then it pans up. And his Harry's sitting up there. He's got his little binoculars. He's looking. He's like, "Oh, that's the bad guy up there." He's like,
obviously it's the bad. He looks bad. He looks bad. Yeah. Jesus.
Yeah, and then they have a little moment, Harry and Peter outside, like, "Hey, you killed my dad, you son of a bitch." And then he just like decides to kill him. That night.
He just decides to kill him, and oh my god! And it looks horrible. It looks so horrible. The whole thing looks really, really bad.
Yeah, there's so much CG nonsense, and
it's not like CG from the second one. It's like really bad CG. The second movie looked better than this movie.
It did,
CG wise.
Well, and they tried to insert so much CG into this one, which is just why, like the last one had such a nice balance of having the practical arms, but there was CG, but and like
CG when you need it,
and like the compositing of the battle just looks really bad. Also, what's the time frame between this movie and the last movie? Like, because like we knew in
a year.
Does it say a year?
That's a year, yeah.
When does it say that?
At the beginning.
It does.
Yeah.
So
also, I have it here up on Wikipedia, a year after Otto Octavius's demise.
Huh. So like for a year, Harry had been sitting on that. Like,
Yep.
You killed my dad.
You killed my dad, and I'm not doing anything about it.
And then he decided, now's the time, because there's a film crew here.
Yeah. Yeah. Now is the time. Let's get into it.
Yeah, and
and then he bumps his head.
Yeah, he hits his head, and then they forget that anything happened. And it's all very confusing when he hits his head, because like now Harry and Peter are like best friends. There's a scene where they're more friends in that scene than they've ever been in any movie. It's crazy. He wakes up and he's like, "Oh, my friends are here. My best friends.
My best friends."
And it's like,
Peter.
What is happening? And then they're just like, "Yeah, your dad died." He's like, "Oh, shucks. That's too bad."
Yeah.
Huh?
And well, it was a question. He's like, "And my dad's dead?" And Peter smiles and goes, "Yeah." And then they move on, and it's like, what?
I know, this guy has amnesia. That's going to be the first time he's hearing his dad has died. And he's just like,
also,
oh, shucks, that's...
But also, it's so pick and choose. Like, the amnesia is so pick and choose. They're like, oh yeah, it's very short-term memory loss. And then they get to his apartment, and he's like, well, I guess I'm well off, huh? It's like he didn't know that he was rich and lived in this apartment or like anything about his life, but he knew that his friends were there. It's so pick and choose. It's just like, yeah, this is relevant to the story, and it really isn't. It's horrible.
Yeah, it's wild. I just, yeah. But I can't. They're like playing basketball. They were never friends. They never have done that.
Never shown. We were never shown that they were true friends, other than going, "You're my friend, Harry," and then Harry going, "Fuck you, Peter."
And
that was it.
And the butler shows up and they're like, "Hey, Bernard." That's the worst part of this movie, I think. His name's not Bernard. It's Bernard.
It's Bernard. Yeah, Bernard.
Bernard. One of my favorite scenes in this movie, dude, is like later on, Harry remembers. He eventually he does end up remembering. And one of my favorite scenes is like Bernard just has this like long dialogue where he's like, "I saw your dad. I saw what he did. I was there when he killed himself with Spider-Man." He's like so monotone and just like that actor just like, I
loved your father, Harry, just like I have loved you. Yeah.
It's like, who the fuck is this old guy? I would have loved if they showed a scene, like the scene where he gets stabbed, and then it does a little zoom over, and Bernard's standing in the background. He was standing there. He was watching. He was there the whole time.
Or like Spider-Man comes over and he helps him. He just helps him like put him down into the bed.
Oh yeah. Then there's a scene where Sandman, like, I don't even know what Sandman's doing. Well, first of all, we see Sandman, and there's a really good scene where he becomes Sandman, and like the CG is really nice. I actually think it's definitely stylized and looks weird, but like it's still really cool because it's like he's like trying to figure out how to keep form, and like you see him like breaking apart. He's like trying to grab the necklace his daughter gave him, but he can't do it because he's sand, and it's like this tragic moment, and it's really nice. I like that scene a lot. But then like Sandman, like I don't even know what his objective is anymore. Like he's just causing mayhem, just cause.
No, because he's still running, but he needs money to help his daughter out.
Right.
So he's like he just happens to walk by police officers, and they're like, "Oh, it's this guy.
It's him.
It's the guy."
But then he like takes Gwen Stacy hostage, right? Oh no. Okay, I remember. No, I'm sorry. No. Go ahead. I remember now.
No, they
chase him down.
Happens?
They chase him down. He ends up hitting a crane.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
He ends up hitting a crane, and like
the crane fails and Gwen Stacy almost falls out of the building.
And there's the scene where Peter's talking to MJ, and MJ's like, I think MJ had just like gotten the reviews, right? And the reviews of her play are like, she sucks unless you're in the first row. And Peter's like, hey, I'm Spider-Man. I get that all the time. I get a lot of negative credits. And then they're like, and then they hear, hey, a crane's about to hit a building. And he's like, anyway, gotta go.
Well, that's so shitty. Like, she comes to him and she's like, hey, the critics say I suck. And he's like, yeah, but that's just one dude. That's just one guy. You can't listen to that.
He's trying to be relatable.
I can relate to you because I'm Spider-Man, and Spider-Man has critics as itself. And she's like, don't fucking do that. This is about me, not you. And she's like, he's literally he's doing the right thing in this moment.
Yeah.
And then the radio comes over and is like, the crane's falling.
At this point, I'm very much Team Peter, but that switches very quickly.
Very, very quack.
Where I become Team MJ very quickly in this movie. But Gwen Stacy gets hit, and then you see Gwen Stacy like hanging, almost falling, and then her dad is down there. He's the police chief, and Eddie Brock's just taking pictures, and they're both just like, "Hey, how's it going, guy? Hey,
how's it going, random man?
Hey, how's it going, Eddie? Oh, it's going good, Mr. Stacy. Anyway, I'm dating your daughter." And they're just like, oh, shucks. And just take him. She's dying. She's dying.
Yeah.
And they're just having
she's going to die.
They're just having this nonchalant conversation. Just like, oh, yeah, good to see you. Oh, yeah, I'm dating your daughter. Which turns out he wasn't actually dating her. They just went on one date and she wasn't like into it. So he's just a little confused, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know.
He seems like an asshole in this movie.
Yeah, and then just like randomly, the police are like, "Oh, hey! Also, we found out Sandman was actually the one who killed Ben Parker."
Ben Parker. Somehow,
it's
not
like
the guy.
We saw this scene in the first movie where he killed him. We saw the guy kill him.
Yep. And they retcon the whole scene. They retcon the entire thing, and we get flashbacks to it. Fake ass flashbacks to it 3 times during this movie of what Peter thinks happened, what actually happened, and what Sandman tells him happened. And it's like, what the fuck is going on? Like this, it's so confused. This whole movie is so confusing. They give Spider-Man the key to the city for saving Gwen Stacy, but not anybody else ever. And he kisses Gwen Stacy for some fucking reason.
Dude,
for no reason at all.
They're just like, he's getting a key to the city. And first of all, Peter, like, don't you know? Like, hey, if they're gonna have like an event where they know, like, his whole reason he doesn't wear, the whole reason he wears a mask is so the people he loves doesn't get hurt, and he doesn't like to be places because he doesn't want people to get hurt. But having an event where it's like, we know Spider-Man's gonna show up, don't you know something's gonna go wrong there, Peter? Don't you know? Yep. And then he shows up to that event. He comes down and is like.
And the crowd is like, kiss him.
Kiss him.
And why? Why?
And then he goes, yeah, go ahead, lay one on me.
Yeah, they'll love it. They'll love it. Especially my girlfriend out there and
watching if it was just like, she kisses his cheek, that's one thing. But no, she pulls down his fucking mask.
Yeah,
kisses him.
Like, not just kisses him, but like smooches him.
They like smooch big time.
Yep.
Big time smoochies. If I was Peter, I would have been like, fuck that. No.
That's not what I meant.
You could kiss my cheek outside the mask. If, because the crowd's going nuts.
You grab my head and go, that's it. That's what you do.
Kiss my forehead, like whatever.
Yeah.
If the crowd's being weird, let's play into the weird crowd. Don't fucking kiss my lips. Don't expose my face.
I want to bring this up before we get too far. Before this happens, though, Peter and MJ are like walking up to this event, this Key to the City event, and they're together and they're talking, and he's like, at this point, she knows that she has gotten fired from this gig because of multiple reviews. She refuses to tell him that she was fired, and he's like, "Don't worry, we'll be laughing about that one review tomorrow. I promise." And she's like, "Yeah, ha 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 ha," but like dying on the inside because she got let go and she's not telling Peter. As soon as Harry walks up, eating fucking cotton candy for some reason, he just walks up. He's like, "Hey, MJ, what's going on?" And she's like, "I got fired."
Yeah,
straight up just tells him. Like, what? You can tell that to Harry, but not Peter.
They make Harry just this like big fucking idiot because he has amnesia, which I guess makes you like just. He's like he's never had cotton candy before, and he's like, he's just out here like he's really living it up, and he just it's so stupid.
It's so stupid.
We also forgot to mention at this point, Aunt May has given a ring to Peter so he could propose. Yeah. That's also a through line, and they go to a restaurant where we see what's his name, Bruce Campbell, who's playing like a French guy. And this is the first time Bruce Campbell's actually being nice to Peter, if you notice. In the other two movies, he's kind of a dick to him. But this one, he's like his best friend. He's like really trying to help him out. He's actually like, he'd get a big tip from me. He's very helpful. But then like Gwen Stacy shows up at that restaurant, which weird coincidence. But then she's also like very handsy with him, and like very like rubbing his back and like
way too right in front of Mary Jane, and for no reason.
And Mary Jane,
no reason,
rightfully is like, who the fuck is this bitch? Like, you just kissed her and you know her too. Like, if it was just like some rando, and it's like that's already weird as fuck. But like, okay, but you know her.
This is the point. Yeah, this is the point where it switches. He's about to like propose with the champagne and the thing and whatnot. And Gwen Stacy comes over and just gets real handsy with him. We haven't seen this before at all. Never this interaction at all. Nope. There's nothing like this. And
apparently they're lab partners.
Oh, hey Peter. Yeah.
Yeah. Apparently they're lab partners.
Yep. So then she gets upset and walks out, rightfully so. And he gets his butt hurt because he literally kissed her. And then saw her that same day, and Mary Jane was upset. It was like, fuck, dude.
It's I just the whole thing is just flabbergasting because the whole point of this movie is later on, and this is before this happens, but like later on, Peter gets this symbiote on him, which makes him act.
Well, that's pretty much next. That's pretty much what happens next.
But Peter gets the symbiote on him that makes him a real fucking asshole, a real dick. But he does all of that before the symbiote attaches to him.
Yep.
He's a fucking asshole before it even attaches. Just for no reason he's doing this shit. Yeah.
Yep. No, there's nothing that this movie, it's not like, oh, this is why he's an asshole. It's literally just like, he's an asshole. Oh, and also he learned that his uncle's killer is still out there, so now he's upset about that, which is a better reason for him to be an asshole. But he still doesn't learn that until after everything happens.
Right. If all of this shit happened, where he like kissed MJ or kissed Gwen Stacy and like was being an asshole, and like MJ got pissed off at him, if that all happened while he had the symbiote on him, I'd be like, okay, I get it. That all happened before the symbiote attached.
Yep.
Why? It's crazy. And they spend so much time on this melodrama stuff because like, the whole movie is like, because then like Mary Jane goes over to Harry's house and is just like chilling with him, kisses him very passionately.
Kisses him? Yeah. And they actually seem like friends.
They seem like more than friends.
More than friends. Like, I'm rooting for them because like, they should be together. They meet each other's needs, you know?
Yeah.
I just don't understand. But yeah, so he
at that point in the movie, I was like, this is irredeemable. She's just kissed another man. Peter's, flirting
with
other
girls.
Yeah, he's going on dates with Gwen Stacy. He's flirting with his next door neighbor. Like, it's just not working out, dude. This is irredeemable shit.
Yep. So then, Peter has like, I guess PTSD and can't sleep very well in his apartment, and the symbiote attaches to him, and then he just wakes up on the side of a building going, "Where am I?"
Yeah.
And then he does nothing different. He just swings around a little bit, stops, and goes, "This is incredible."
Yeah,
he wasn't able to do that in the first place.
Well, I think it's implied it makes him stronger,
or just happy, happy in general,
and it just makes him feel good. You know, he says that he's like, "This feels good." You know, yeah, and dude, there's so much in this movie. Like, they packed so much shit in, but did nothing.
So much.
There's so much shit because now we're at the fucking photography place, and Eddie Brock is like the photographer there, and J. Jonah Jameson is like, "Oh, you brought me pictures. Your pictures are better than Peter's." He's the new guy, you know. Eddie Brock's the new guy, even though in the first movie he says, "Eddie, we'll put Eddie Brock on it." So like Eddie Brock has been there for 6 years at this point, but he's the new guy.
The same amount even longer than Peter. Yeah.
But Peter comes rolling in, you know, like with the symbiote, and he's like flirting with Betty, and like Betty wants it bad, you know? Like Betty wants it. And from the very first movie, I have bought Betty and Peter more than anyone else.
Yep.
They should get it going on. But then it turns out Eddie Brock is like photoshopping photos of Spider-Man, and
just to get his job.
And Peter, as a dick, exposes him. Like they play it up like he's a dick for exposing him because he's wearing the symbiote, and he's like, "Look at how much of a dick Peter is for exposing this guy and ruining his career." It's like, well, no, like he fucking photoshopped.
He shouldn't be doing that. He's faking everything. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it's really not. He did the right thing, actually.
So let's run through this real quick. Spider-Man ends up killing Marco, the Sandman, in like a underground battle, and he like floods him out. So he turns into mud. Mary Jane and Harry,
and he just assumes that he's dead. He's just like, "Oh, he's mud. He's dead."
Mary Jane and Harry kiss, and they have like this really sweet, like,
and then Harry remembers
sort of thing. And then Harry remembers, and he immediately goes to her house and kidnaps her and tells her to break up with Peter, even though they're not really together at this point, I feel. So she has Peter go over to this bridge, and she breaks up with him, and he's like, "Oh man, blah blah blah." Then the next scene, Harry is like,
we're forgetting something really important, though.
What's that?
Where
I don't think we are.
Peter goes to the nightclub with Gwen, because he wants to make Mary Jane jealous. So he brings.
No, that's not even yet. That doesn't even happen yet.
I swear that's before.
No. Okay. So Harry meets up with Peter, and he's like, "Hey, I'm the other guy. I'm the other guy that she's been sleeping with, or whatever, that she loves." And he gets all upset and walks away. And then somehow Harry just disappears behind a truck as a truck goes by.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, cool. And like the guy sitting behind him's like, "What the hell? Where did that
Even
guy
the
go?"
Guy that was, it's like, what? I guess that's just like a power you get when you become Green Goblin.
You just can disappear. Under the influence of the symbiote, Peter later confronts Harry and has a brief fight. Harry throws a pumpkin bomb at him, and then Peter throws it back at him and scars him up on his face.
Yep.
And then Peter exposes Eddie Brock, and then is like,
a lot of this is all out of order. Yeah.
So then Peter brings Gwen to the jazz club, where he has that fucking scene where he just starts playing piano, like we know he did, like we know he can. Dude, I guess
this scene, you know, like a lot of people talk about the scene where he's walking down the street and doing the dance or whatever, because he's all hyped up because he's got the symbiote. and like he, you know, he's putting his hair in front of his face, and he's like, "I'm so edgy and shit."
Yeah.
And like, but no one talks about this scene enough, where he gets up on there, he like plays the piano, he rides on like the chair and like slides across the room and like is like dancing and shit, and then like dances with Gwen and shit. And Gwen seems into it until the end. She's like, "Oh, you were just using me, weren't you?" And then at the end of all of this, Mary Jane's like, "What are you doing here, Peter?" And he fucking backhands her. Like,
yeah,
dude, it's irredeemable. You can't redeem this shit.
No. So then he feels bad about it. He feels bad about it, and he goes to a church for some reason to get rid of the symbiote, to like pull it off of him. And the church bells start going off, and it starts actually like coming off of him because it doesn't like sound. Also, meantime, Eddie Brock is broken because Peter ruined his career or whatever. So he's also in that same church
to pray and asks God to kill Peter Parker.
To kill Peter Parker. He's like, "Hey God, I know we don't talk, but if you could do me a solid and kill Peter Parker, that'd be great." So then symbiote drips down onto Eddie Brock and he becomes Venom.
There's so much in this movie. Jesus Christ.
So much. Oh, we're almost through it though. Somehow. Oh, okay. Yeah. Brock somehow knows that Peter is Spider-Man. So once he gets the symbiote, he finds Sandman and is like, "Hey, let's team up and kill Spider-Man."
Yeah.
And for no reason, Sandman's like, "Yeah, okay." Other than, you know, he just kicked my ass. He abducts Mary Jane.
Is so like barely in this movie. It's insane.
Yep.
Because he's the better of the three villains, and they spend so little time on him.
Yep. So then they kidnap Mary Jane and put her in like a precarious situation like every time. You think that the people in New York City would know who Mary Jane is because she's been kidnapped 3 times and Spider-Man has
and she's been in a fucking Broadway play.
Yeah, that too. Like
people know
some
who
lady
she is.
up there. Yeah, some lady up there has been kidnapped and now Spider-Man has to save her. And they're like, "I don't think Spider-Man can do it alone." So he goes and asks
Harry
to help him out, and Harry's like, "No, fuck you." And then the butler's like, "You need to help your friends."
Yeah, that's where the scene where Bernard is like, "I've known your father for 2 years and he's a good man." It's like, what?
They end up fighting Sandman and Venom.
Here's the thing about this scene though, Nick. There's a zoom shot from the cameraman at the news station, like zooming in on what's her name? Mary Jane. And like very close shot, you can see her very clearly who it is. There is several scenes where Spider-Man is not wearing his mask.
Oh yeah.
And the camera guys just aren't looking at him.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. It's so stupid.
They end up fighting, and it's pretty fucking basic.
Sandman turns into a giant fucking ogre thing.
Yeah. And then Harry gets stabbed protecting Peter, dies, and Sandman's like, "Hey man, I'm sorry I did that to your uncle. You forgive me?" And Peter's like, "Yeah." And
I
he
do.
Floats off into the sunset as a bunch of sand.
He didn't do anything. He was just attacking him. Nothing changed. And he's just like, "Yeah, you're cool. Go ahead.
Just leave." And freaking he kills Eddie Brock by throwing a grenade at Venom, and Eddie Brock's like, "No, I can't live without Venom." And then he dies. That's it. That's the fucking movie.
And then he saves Mary Jane, and Mary Jane's. Then they go to the funeral, right? They go to
the funeral, which doesn't need to happen.
Joe Magliano, Flash Thompson. Yeah. He's there.
Yeah, he's there in the background. That scene didn't need to happen. We understood that
he's dead.
Harry's dead.
Yeah,
and then this is sometime later, I guess. And Peter just walks into the jazz club that Mary Jane is singing at. She stops singing because she notices him. He holds out his hand, and she takes his hand. What? What does that have to do with anything? What happened in that? Like at any point, like they haven't been like away from each other for so long, and he just walked in. He just happened to walk in and surprise her. He's literally just like, they went to the funeral together for Harry. They've seen each other prior, and he just walks in, and it's like a big fucking deal that he arrived. I hate this movie so much.
It's really
I
bad.
hate this movie. I've got some trivia for you.
You got fun facts for us?
I got some fun facts for you. The release date for the film was set before Spider-Man 2 was even released.
Wow.
Ground corn was used as sand because it reflected on camera well.
Oh, that's cool.
Kirsten Dunst, natural blonde, plays redhead Mary Jane, while Bryce Dallas Howard, a natural redhead, plays blonde Gwen Stacy.
That is funny. Oh, yeah. Bryce Dallas Howard played Gwen Stacy. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah. All the screams Kirsten Dunst had for the film were recycled from Spider-Man 2. It was delivered to UK cinemas.
Why? Why were they? They just gonna get her to scream again, huh?
I guess not. It was delivered to UK cinemas under the code name Back for More. Co-creator of Spider-Man, Stan Lee, makes an appearance as a man who tells Peter how great Spider-Man is. We already know that.
Yeah, we know that. That's not really a secret.
Topher Grace was never referred to as Venom in the entire movie.
Yo, I got a fun scenario for you here. Let's imagine for a second, Topher Grace was originally Spider-Man, and Tobey Maguire played Eddie Brock.
I could see that a lot better.
I could see that a lot better. Those two switched, I think, is way better.
We got a better.
Also,
movie.
what up with Topher Grace's like weird frosted tips? I hated that. I hated it so much.
He looks that's a product of the time, my guy.
Yeah, he looked horrible.
In Harry's lab, his father's Green Goblin mask is seen as well as a gold Goblin mask in the comics. Hobgoblin wears a yellow Goblin mask.
There was a silver one in there too.
I guess so. To prepare for his role as Venom, Topher Grace worked out for 6 months, gaining 24 pounds of muscle.
Damn.
He based his performance on alcoholics and drug addicts.
I couldn't tell.
Yep, couldn't tell.
He's barely in the movie. I feel like everyone's barely in the movie because there's so much.
I kind of like this. The film's translation in Russia is Spider-Man 3 Enemy in the Reflection.
That's
kinda
cool.
Like that.
Yeah, that's a cool surname.
Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire were the driving forces that got Sandman into this film. Fuck. During press interviews for the two Spider-Man films, Raimi and Maguire repeatedly mentioned Sandman as a villain, as they would like to see in the future sequel.
Yeah, and you could tell because he's like the best one of the three.
Yep. The alien symbiote's main weakness is that it's susceptible to high sonic sounds. The weakness is also shared by Daredevil and another Marvel character. Is also shared by Daredevil. Great, cool. That's hardly a fucking thing. Daredevil's.
I swear that's the church in Daredevil. Like that is like
it could be. Yeah. The animators at Sony ImageWorks based Venom's movements on big cats like tigers, panthers, and cheetahs.
He was so small too. Venom. He was so small and thin.
He was so small. This is the first Spider-Man film not nominated for an Oscar. This is the longest Spider-Man film. This is the longest Marvel film until the Avengers. It was the highest grossing Marvel film until the Avengers. This is the first and so far the only Spider-Man film not to have the spider sense to be heard.
There is no spider sense. Why couldn't he like notice the symbiote when it dropped from fucking space with his spider sense? It dropped right next to him. You know?
His spider sense is just a plot point for him to be like, I can move really fast, but I'm not going to notice anything interesting ever. That's pretty much it. Bryce Dallas Howard performed her own stunts during the crane accident scene, unaware that she was pregnant at the time of filming.
I heard that actually, yeah.
That's pretty crazy.
I'm glad the baby's okay. I'm assuming, I guess. I don't know.
According to Bryce Dallas Howard on the DVD commentary, the actor who plays the photographer during the crane accident scene performed magic for her birthday party when she was in second grade.
That makes sense. Her dad is Ron Howard, so she probably has a bunch of industry insider friends.
True. Yeah, that's there's a buttload more, but we're not going to go over that.
That has to be like one of her first big roles, huh?
Probably. But this one makes me uneasy. Eddie's line, "My spider sense is tingling," if you know what I'm talking about, when referring to MJ, was his idea. Was Topher Grace's idea.
But like how would he know about the spider sense?
I don't know. They never brought it up at all. He wouldn't know about spider sense at all.
That is a funny line though. I'm not gonna lie.
It's a stupid line.
If you know what I mean. Well, let's rank this.
Here we go. Yeah.
Wait, did you have one more? Or did you have 1, 4, 5?
I just closed it.
Oh, okay.
It's too late.
Never mind.
It's too late. Gotta go here and then here. Go live. Bam. See, this is what it looks like when it's in dark mode.
Oh, I like that. Okay, so at number one, we've got Spider-Man 2. And at number 2, we've got Spider-Man. Where do you want to put it, Nick?
We're putting it right at number 3. Wow, this movie's bad. I think this is the worst movie out of every Spider-Man that has ever existed ever. What is it, 2006, I think?
It was 7, but maybe.
2007? I'll look it up. God, this movie's really bad. 2007, you're right. That's it. If you agree with us, as you should, let us know. Start a conversation. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one, which is going to be actually
Eternals.
I think we're doing Eternals next week.
Yep, Eternals, and then we'll come back to Spider-Man after that.
Yeah, because Eternals comes out on Friday,
and I think Hawkeye starts soon too. Let's take a look.
November 12th or 20th, I want to say.
Those are very different things.
It's the 17th.
Okay, so that'll start in 2 weeks then.
Yeah.
So Eternals,
but that's going to be a different thing.
And then Amazing Spider-Man, and then Hawkeye, but we'll continue doing Spider-Man as well.
Oh, it's the 24th. It's the 24th. I fucked up. So 2 weeks from there.
Oh, okay. So we'll get both Amazing Spider-Mans out, and then we'll have Hawkeye.
Yep. Man, I'm so glad we're done with the Sam Raimi ones. Yeah. So glad. Spider-Man 2 was good. Spider-Man 1, not so much. And Spider-Man 3 was just a waste of time.
I still had a good time watching them. I'm not gonna lie. I
had a good time. Don't get me wrong. I had a good time. Although I was very sleepy, and I think I fell asleep a couple of times during the third one.
It happens.
Because it was 2 a.m.
It happens.
But
I'm really glad we got it out of the way when we did, though. I didn't have time.
Me too. Yeah.
Anyway, talk to you later, guys. Bye.
Yep. Thanks for watching.